In today's episode, we are talking to the one and only Chelsea Gajewski. And yes, it is Gajewski. No matter how you think you want to pronounce it, her name is Chelsea Gajewski. So you better remember it, because today we are talking about something really fun and near and dear to my heart, because we're talking about love. But it's not just any love. It is, what is it like to be a divorce attorney and date? What is it like to date a divorce attorney? I would say that Chelsea and I have some pretty unique insight on this. Chelsea is, of course, a family law attorney. She is a practice leader for Sodoma Law. She runs Sodoma Law Belmont. Her team is amazing, and she is amazing, and I'm excited for you to get to know her. Chelsea.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm so glad you're here. It's so fun. Chelsea, you might not know, Chelsea and I have known each other since she got out of law school. And so I feel like she is not only my colleague, but maybe, I don't know, maybe a little bit of a little sister.
Okay.
I've never really thought of it like that, but
Yes.
I do feel like we're like kind of growing up together. We've been through a lot together.
Yes.
And to see you in leadership now and making such a mark in the family law community is so fun for me. And your clients are so lucky to have you.
Thank you.
But I also realize, like, because of when you started in your career, and it made me think, and we talk about this a lot, like, what is it like to date as a divorce lawyer? I feel like some people think we have this superhuman insight on what should work and what shouldn't work. Do you feel like people look at you and say, tell me all the stuff?
Oh yeah, what's the secret? Do you still want to get married? What red flags do you see? Are you going to get a prenup? Yeah, people think I'm going to know it all, and I've made plenty of dating mistakes.
Oh, I can't wait to get into this. Okay, so first, tell me where you're from. Tell me about your practice.
Okay, I'm originally from Buffalo, New York. Go Bills. And I moved to Charlotte to go to law school, and I graduated in 2016, and then I stalked you, literally, via email, and then set up an interview and came in, and you blew past. You weren't even in the interview, which was funny. But yeah, we were paired together after taking a personality test, and then I've been here for almost 9 years. Yes.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history.
And we're going to grow old together, but I think it's me first.
Yes, I think I always put on my goals, like retire at Sodoma Law.
So I think, the idea of getting married when you've been a divorce attorney and you're now coming in on 10 years, what is that like now? Because I feel like when we first met, it wasn't central to our conversations, but like now, the longer you practice, the perspective changes.
Yes.
Do you think that your perspective as a divorce attorney has changed from, when you first decided that you wanted to be in family law to now?
Yes, 100%. I'm 34, so when I started, I was 25. So it was completely different. They were just coming out with the apps. I didn't feel this pressure that I needed to get married. But also, yes, being a family law attorney, but just being an attorney and being in a professional business, I've grown a lot. So it's not so much about their looks anymore, what they do for work. It's more.
Shame.
I know.
Shame.
I know.
What? Did you hear that? No.
Yeah.
It's about all the things.
No, it's not anymore. Everyone's like, height. I'm like, whatever height they are, as long as they make me laugh and they're a kind of person. That's like the standard now.
And so what about this? I remember, so as most people know, and if anybody's ever seen this podcast or read anything about me online, they would know I've been married before, and that I'm remarried. And I remember being in the courtroom as a 31-year-old lawyer, and I had decided to get married, and I remember telling the judge that day that I wasn't going to be available at some hearing because I think it was something to do with a wedding. And my opposing counsel looked at me, and I will never forget it, and she said, "It's nice to know that hope triumphed experience."
Damn.
Right?
Yeah.
I just wrote it down when we start, because it was like, oh my gosh, is it hope?
Yes.
Is it?
I think it's faith.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think it's faith, it's hope. And I'm like, I'm not the only person that's not going to meet somebody. Hopefully I'm one of the few that don't get divorced.
Right.
But I think I'm going to meet somebody.
So what has what has been the easiest? So first, I want to kind of break this up into two parts. And I know I'm going to go back and forth 100 times.
Yeah.
But like dating a divorce attorney, like in the dating world, and then a divorce attorney who is dating, because I think those are two very different perspectives.
Yes.
Because, if you think about it, what, like this whole idea, it's hope versus experience. And so on the hope side is you're dating, and what are the things that are red flags to you in the dating world? And I think this is really good information for anyone who is dating. And it could be our clients, it could be our friends. Half the people we know probably are in some sort of dating experience, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what are some red flags that you see
So many.
as a result of your experience as a divorce attorney?
Okay, as my result of a divorce attorney.
Okay.
Well, I would say the biggest one, people think that when you get married, it's just going to be totally different than what it was like during dating. They think whatever red flags or issues somebody had during their dating life will just be gone because they're married and they've made this commitment to one another. Rarely ever the case. Typically, if somebody's coming to us for a divorce, when we ask, okay, well, how did you meet? What happened? The two are often intertwined. Like, oh, they were doing this during dating, or this is how I met this person. And then that's now tied to the reason as to why they're getting a divorce.
So, super simple example, your client is like, I am so tired that he eats unhealthy, it's fast food every night, he never helps me cook.
Alcohol.
But then you say, well, what was it like during dating?
Yes.
Well, we fast fooded every night.
Yes.
Like, why did you think that was going to change when you got married?
Yeah, or another one, I had a client come and he says, I got to get a divorce. And I said, why? And he said, she's gotten us into a major amount of debt. I can't get us out. I'm strapped financially. And so I said, okay, well, how did you meet? What did that look like? He said, well, she had just gotten out of a relationship and I was helping her get out of debt from that relationship. And I said, okay, so she was in debt. You helped her get out of debt when you were dating. Now she's gotten you all into debt. And so it was the same thing. And they just think, okay, well, I'm going to be this person's partner. I'm going to show them the way. They're going to change because we've now made this commitment. And no, people are who they are.
Okay, what about sex? So like sex before marriage and sex after marriage.
Yes.
Do people ever talk about that with you?
Oh, yes. I just had a guy and he said, when we were dating, we were like rabbits and now we've got 2 kids and she doesn't even touch me. Yes.
Right?
Yes. So I will say, often people will say having children, the sex life has diminished. Yeah.
Okay, red flags that we see as divorce lawyers that you should have seen or probably saw when you were dating and that you ignored. Let's think about some others.
Yes. So often people say, well, they're lazy. They don't go to work. They don't dress up. They don't care about themselves health-wise. They're not working out. They've gained all this weight. That's one. People, and then they're dating a professional who cares very much about their appearance and their health. That's a big one. And I would say the other big one besides money, controlling, financially controlling. Yes. He gives me a budget. I can only spend this amount per month. I have no idea what our accounts look like. I have no access. I'm only allowed to spend this per month.
Okay, so the reality is if we could give advice and we could see all these red flags, the thing that we should be doing is saying to ourselves, to our friends, to our clients, if they're in that dating scenario, okay, you see it right now. So you don't want to repeat the same mistake. So it's communication, it's
going to therapy, I think, and surrounding yourself with people who are in healthy relationships. I will say, being the divorce attorney, yeah, I see a lot of what I don't want. And I think that's a big part of it. People are so focused on what they do want, but I don't even think you realize what you don't want until you go on those dates, get that experience, or in my case, surround yourself with clients who are like, I hate this. And I see how they communicate with each other. I'm like, yeah, I would hate that too. I do not want somebody who speaks to me that way, who controls the finances, who isn't taking care of themselves, who isn't physically, affectionate. I don't want those things either. I think people are so focused on, do they like me, instead of, do I like them?
right.
Yeah.
Which also like kind of speaks to some insecurity and maybe, I mean, hell, maybe it's some abandonment issues. There are all kinds of things that you can learn about yourself when you're trying to figure out who you want your partner to be.
Right.
Instead of trying to change who you are. I mean, that was probably one of my biggest lessons when I was going through my separation process was I'm spending all this time trying to make everything work, but I'm not it. I'm the only one that I feel like I'm really working at it.
Yeah.
And so it takes two people to make a relationship work.
Yeah. And I've seen the difference in you with George and from when I first met you. For sure. Definitely. You are so much brighter in yourself and you thrive in that. And George loves that about you. So it has been a complete change for the better.
Oh, well, thanks.
You're
I'll
welcome.
make sure he knows.
Yeah. I'll tell him too, George.
But it's like, I always thought, well, I'm a divorce attorney. I'm the least likely person to ever get divorced because I've seen it all. And as a result of having seen it all, I'll know what not to do. And I will fix it in real time. And then you realize, oh, you can't fix people.
Yeah.
You're the only one that can change. And other people have to want to change, and you can't want it more than they want it for themselves,
you cannot.
right?
Right.
So do you have like those light bulb moments? Okay, so now you're as a divorce attorney and you're dating. Do you have those light bulb moments when you go on dates and you're like, ding, ding, I saw this in one of my cases and I need to not do this?
Yes. I think definitely the appearance and the health or the substance abuse. If they're drinking a lot of alcohol on our first date, I'm like, whoa,
Maybe they're just nervous.
No. Well, then they're not for me because I do intimidate a lot of people. And so.
Do people think you're intimidating?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think because I'm direct, maybe. But
yeah, it might be that New York thing.
Yes.
Okay, so if you're like, that's one of your things. Like if I'm on a date and I think they're drinking too much, I'm thinking this person's not for me.
Yes.
I see it in my cases. That's not something I can control. What about just saying, do you always drink like this? Is this, or do you question it? Or?
My personal opinion is on a first date, you're at your best. Maybe not looking your best, and that's fine, but you're putting your charm on, you're getting to know this person after you get over the nerves, sure. But it's, okay, how are you treating the waitress? How are you treating the bartender? Did you open my door? What are your mannerisms? Can you carry a conversation? I just went on a date, and I think I got 2 words in the entire time. He was just talking about how he wanted to live on a homestead. I was like, okay, well, that's not for me. That's not for me. But yeah, having a good conversation with somebody, that's important. Working a room, I think also that's important. All the networking stuff that we do.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, because people don't think of lawyers as being out in the community and how we create relationships in the community and how important all of that is.
Very important.
I mean, especially when we spend so much time in our office, in our courtrooms, in our conference rooms, to also find the time to do that and to figure out the thing that you enjoy and then finding a partner that you might enjoy it with.
Yes. Yes.
That's really important.
Yes, come with me, or not, coming with me, sure, but okay, you take care of the kids or the dogs while I'm doing this, so they can be more of a partner. But yes, one of the two. Well, you were just talking about controlling.
Okay.
Controlling behavior.
Okay.
Yes. Just listen to the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins.
Oh, Let Them.
Yes. Game changer.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, I have the book on my nightstand. I haven't read it yet.
Oh, you have to. I listened to it, but yes.
Okay.
So good. It frees up so much more space in your life when you start like double texting or realizing, okay, I'm trying to control this person to do what I want them to do. That should also be a ding, ding, ding.
Oh, that's so interesting. I got to get on Mel Robbins' book.
Yes, I think the last few chapters.
Is Mel Robbins, right?
Yes.
Okay, she also has a podcast. I've been listening to her podcast for a long time, but I got to tell you, I'm still an Oprah fan, and when I saw that she sat down with Oprah,
Ooh.
Oh goodness, I was so proud of her.
That's amazing.
Yes, I was so proud of her. And, a lot of people don't know, like she was a journalist before this and COVID happened and it was like the new and improved.
Yeah, they were in a lot of debt too, because I think of her husband's business and they pulled it out. But no, the Let Them Theory was a game changer for me, at least in 2025. I mean, it just came out, but
do you think Do you think that your parents had anything to do with the value system that you have about marriage and divorce?
Yes.
How so?
And this might be odd, but more so my stepdad, I
Okay.
would say. My parents got divorced when I was maybe 3 or 4,
Yeah.
and my dad was really absent. So instead of going to his house, we would go to my grandparents' house.
Right.
My mom met my stepdad when I was in the 5th grade.
Okay.
He is beyond. I mean, I don't think I would be sitting in this seat if it weren't for him. I don't think I would have gone to law school if it weren't for him. I wouldn't be as logical, I think, as I am. I'd probably be more emotional like my mom. But
No offense, Mom.
no offense, Mom. We love Mom. But he calmed her down. He let her be who she is, always, but always talking her into more rational thought processes. But he allowed me and my brother to do so many things. Yeah, game change. I mean, and then my stepsister, who is, adore her, and now I have a niece. So my stepdad, I would say, would be the biggest influence.
And when it comes to relationships, is that like, both my parents were, I always joke that like it was inevitable that I was going to be a divorce lawyer because divorce was all I knew. It was my normal. I didn't even realize that it wasn't normal for everyone to have had the experience of blended families for so long. And both my parents had been married more than once, have both been married more than once. And so I saw it as a strength instead of a weakness because of just the experience once I figured it out.
Yes.
But that took me a really long time to figure it out. And so I'm always curious because I feel like a lot of people use their childhood as like a little blame game on it being the reason they make the decisions, as if they don't have independent thought, as if this is obviously, this would be a pretty touchy subject because a lot of people would disagree with me on this, but yes, it's the foundation for where you may have learned something, but it doesn't have to be the way you act. Like
Yes.
you get to choose how you want to behave and how you want to respond. And so I'm curious what you think about that.
100%. I was actually just talking to Susan about this the other day, and I get hooked on certain things, and she asked me, okay, well, where did that come from? Ended up being because my dad wasn't around.
Yeah.
So she says, tell yourself, okay, well, this isn't that.
Right.
So take a pause and
Yes.
just remember that this isn't that, and then reframe.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. So my stepdad for sure influenced my career, but I did become a divorce attorney because of him. His ex, very difficult
Right.
exchanges, would threaten the girls before they even went to my stepdad's house, like, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z. So I hated that, and I hated that that's the way that she made them feel when my
Right.
stepdad is amazing. So it really tarnished their relationship, so that's part of the reason why I also went to law school.
Tell me about other podcasts that you like to listen to as a divorce dating professional.
So more on the Just Because I'm Single podcast would be the Sabrina Zohar.
Okay.
I think she's fantastic. She's a quick talker, which I love, but she really gets to, why are you doing that?
Right.
Here are some quick tricks to not do whatever it is that you're doing. And just remember, when like a first date, you're literally just meeting somebody. Don't plan your 10-year wedding anniversary with them when you haven't even met them. I think she's fantastic. And then I've been loving Mel Robbins.
With all of the experience and what you're learning, are you sharing that with your clients who are soon to be in the dating world?
Yes, I bet you every client of mine has said, I'm never getting married again. I'm not going to do it ever. And then they come back to me, can I get a prenup? I'm getting married. And of course we help them. But I always say, this taught you a big lesson. And I always tell everybody, go to therapy. And then they end up going, and then they've met somebody. I've been to so many weddings, or I've been invited to so many weddings.
Yes.
Yeah, but going to therapy and then like realizing the lessons that they learned from their first relationship, I think sets people up for a better second marriage, or third or fourth.
Well, let's not hope third or fourth.
Well,
right?
yeah,
I think hopefully
but you
they
never
figured
know.
it out. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a client, they're both on their fourth or fifth marriages.
Yeah. It just the evolution.
Yes.
And maybe marriage is not for them.
Yes.
And so, what do you think about prenups?
You gotta get them.
Okay, remind everyone what a premarital agreement can and can't do.
Okay, well, it's funny because people say, okay, well, a prenup, isn't that stigmatized? Now we're going to get a divorce. And I say, well, North Carolina already basically gives you a prenup, and that's North Carolina law. So if you don't like North Carolina law, you should get a prenup.
But what if you don't get divorced in North Carolina?
What do you mean?
What if you're no longer in North Carolina? What if I got married here, or married in the islands, or married in Montana? We live in North Carolina, and we end up retiring in Arizona. Arizona law is going to apply if we get divorced.
Yeah, but do you want Arizona law applying? I'd rather
But
be
my
in the
point
control.
is, right, so put it in a prenup, because
yes.
you'll be able to, you'll know what
Yes,
law is going to apply without
setting
worrying about
boundaries.
where you end up, right?
Yes, you're
Okay.
setting boundaries.
Okay.
You're in control. It's a contract, so
Yes.
it's not following the state or the government and everything else that who knows is going to come down the pipeline in the future.
Yes.
You're getting to identify what's mine, what's theirs,
Yes.
whether before marriage or during marriage. So bank accounts, retirement is a big one. You want that 401k to yourself. Or I have a friend right now and she's about to get married, and I said, at least put the house in your name and keep it in your name so it's yours. But in addition to deciding what property goes where when you get separated and divorced, you can waive spousal support. So that's a big thing. Can't deal with kids because you never know what's going to happen with kids. It's always a best interest standard.
So I always think I joke that like I'm the worst dinner guest ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in the place in my life where a lot of my friends' kids are getting married. And so I am always asking, are you going to ask that they have a premarital agreement? And if it's the daughter of the family, they will immediately say no. It's so interesting. And then well, what if she ends up being the breadwinner? Would you be okay if she paid alimony? And then it's like a record, like
yes, yes.
And wait, you mean there's a possibility she could be the one to pay alimony? Yes.
Yes.
That is. There's no, preference. That's not the standard on alimony, and a premarital agreement can address that.
Yes, or even beyond alimony. What if your daughter's or son is the saver during the relationship and the other person's the spender? So when you separate, you think that your 401k is all yours, but it's not. It's still ours. So if you're the saver and you're frugal and you want financial security and so you can retire early, for sure you should get a prenuptial agreement.
Well, and it's interesting because whether you and I have represented over the years, together and separately, lots of professional athletes and teachers and homemakers, and I mean, we're all over the board, right, on who we represent. And I always think it's so interesting when we represent professional athletes, because the law applies to them just as it applies to everyone else.
Yes.
And it's, wait a minute, I'm the one on the field, and I'm the one who can't work. And, I talk about this a lot in the book. It still applies. Like what you earned, what you saved is still half, presumptively half will go to your soon-to-be former spouse. And it usually, it gets really quiet after that, right?
Yes. And I always tell people, marriage, North Carolina looks at you like you're a business. The business started when you guys got married. It's dissolving now that you're separating. So what did the business acquire during your marriage? It's not just what's in your name, it's what's in our name, jointly, individually, or any assets if you do have a business during your marriage.
Right.
So how do we value it, identify all of that stuff? That's how North Carolina looks at it.
And the premarital agreement can help with all of those things. Yes. I like it because it's kind of like a prescription for how we will resolve things, and the best time to, the best time to save money is when you don't need it. The best time to borrow money is when you don't need it. The best time to prepare for divorce is when you have no plans to get divorced. When you're getting along, when you're rational and thinking of each other as equals.
Right.
I mean, do you have do people who are getting married, like, would you get a premarital agreement?
Yes. And it's funny because I feel like when I first started here, I want to say 90% of the women here are married. Maybe there's like 3 or 4 that aren't family law attorneys.
And
all the
several
men
of us are divorced.
Yes, several divorced. And I think I had asked everybody in the beginning, who's got a prenuptial agreement, who doesn't? And shockingly, a lot of people at this office do not.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
Hope triumphs experience.
Yes.
You know, it is amazing to me. And when it's no secret about how I feel about premarital agreements. It's even if you don't want to sign a premarital agreement, you need to be able to have the conversation about a premarital agreement, because that's the hard part.
Yes.
Right?
And are you in line in how you're going to handle your finances during your marriage? Or are you just going to get a sum certain each month and you're going to say, spend it, but that's all you're getting? Yeah. So talking about finances, how you're going to operate during your marriage, but also, yeah. And the other benefit of a premarital agreement is you don't have to spend attorney fees as much when you do separate, or
Ideally.
if you do separate.
Yes, ideally, that is the idea.
Yes.
But then the other piece that I always warn people is, if you're going to go through the process of doing a premarital agreement, do it right. Right? Get your own counsel. Make sure you understand what's in it. Don't cut corners.
Do not cut corners.
And because what it does is it sets you up for having done the work, and then in the event your partner comes home and decides they don't want to be married to you anymore, the question is the premarital agreement going to stand? Like, is someone going to challenge its validity, or are they going to, try to set it aside? And then you're back to square one.
Yes, and then also after you spend the money and the time executing the premarital agreement, making sure you're following the terms of the premarital agreement during your marriage, if you want something to be your separate property so it doesn't get divided if you were separate.
I'll tell you, talking about premarital agreements is tough stuff.
It is.
It is tough stuff. My analogy was, if you aren't comfortable buying a condom, then you shouldn't be having sex.
That's so true.
Isn't that good?
But you know
I think
what?
that's so good. I should tell my teenagers that, but I think that they would roll their eyes and stuff at me.
1000%. But also, as a divorce attorney, I don't feel like talking about it is hard. So I know that when I meet my person, I'm going to say, we're getting one. You on board, or we're not getting married?
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting. Okay, I want to ask some other questions. Hang on. In addition, let's see. When I first became a family law attorney, because I was a business attorney before I did family law. I had no idea how that was going to set me up later, but that's what I did first for a couple of years, and then I joked that I came over to the dark side.
Yes.
But I never wanted to tell anybody I was a divorce attorney, and even now when people ask me what I'll do, I'll say, like, what's the attorney that you want to deal with the least?
That's good.
Which is so telling, by the way.
Yes.
How they answer the question is so telling. If they answer, oh, I don't want to deal with a criminal attorney, I always feel like, oh, what do they have to hide?
Yeah.
If they say, I don't want to deal with a bankruptcy attorney, oh, finances are rough, huh?
Yes.
But if they can guess divorce attorney, but I remember when I was a young lawyer, I would say, I was an airline attendant. I made up all these things because I thought it was so much more fun to have a conversation about like these other dreamy jobs.
Yes. Well, that's funny because on my Bumble or like Hinge profile, it just says attorney. It doesn't say what kind of practice.
She said she has a Bumble and a Hinge profile.
They'll say, what kind of law do you practice? And I'll say family law. And they're like, oh, do you still want to get married? Or, has that ruined your view on relationships? And I just said, no, but it's helped me identify red flags sooner. So that's good. But yeah, there definitely is a stigma. And I get a little nervous every time I even say something about it to a guy.
What's the ick? I don't even know what the ick is. Do you know what the ick is? I don't know. What's the ick? What's the ick?
It's like something that somebody does and you're just like, okay, this is my best example. I was on a date. It was a coffee date and he had a muffin and he was just licking his fingers, like sucking them after he would eat each bite of the muffin. That was the ick for me.
Okay.
Just could not turn back. It's like, I cannot believe you just did that on a first date. You felt that comfortable. Have you ever watched Nobody Wants This, the show?
Oh, yes.
Yes, the ick. When Adam Brody is like, prego, and she gets the ick, it's like, oh my God, you just embarrassed yourself so much. Yes.
Okay, do you think that what would somebody say is the ick about you?
Oh, that's good. No clue.
Because you're perfect.
That's right.
I definitely have, I'm sure I could come up with some things that would be the ick about me.
Yeah.
We're going to have to come up with what our ick.
Yes.
That's our ick. It's like, that's humble, right?
Yes. I'm impatient, but I don't know. That's not an ick.
We're going to have to come up with that.
Yeah.
All right. Have you ever been on a blind date or tried a mixer?
I've tried a mixer, yes. Carolina matchmaking.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
It was at the People's Market in Elizabeth.
Okay.
Did not meet anybody there, but it was a fun experience. And then you actually set me up on a blind date recently.
Yes.
Yes.
And you and I have talked about, this was your idea originally,
Yes.
and we're gonna make it happen. We've talked about having because I'm a marriage-loving divorce attorney. We were gonna do the marriage-loving divorce attorney mixer.
Yes.
Is that what it was gonna be called?
Mixer or mingle? I can't remember.
Marriage-loving divorce attorney matchmaking mixer.
Yes.
That was what it's going to be.
Yes.
That is our plan. That is going to happen sometime in 2025. You wait for it. It's going to be amazing. We have a lot of great clients, but they weren't the right partners for the people they were with. And so we feel like they're great partners. They just haven't met the right person yet.
Yes, and I've tried to set a couple of my clients up. It hasn't made out to be anything yet, but I have faith. Because I feel like if I put good karma out there, it's going to come back to me. So I just try and set people up all the time.
So what do you do when a married person? I feel like when I was single, after separation and before I remarried, I got hit on a lot by married people. I was always so surprised. It actually really bummed me out.
Yeah.
That, like, I would even see the ring. Like, the ring, actually, I think George has told me that the ring is actually, if it wasn't George, it was somebody else, the ring is actually like an attractor, which surprised me.
Yeah.
Do you get hit on by married people?
No.
Maybe it's my generation. I don't
I've
know.
been hit on by a couple of clients, but
Have you been hit on by clients?
yes. You almost had to text one.
Oh, yes. I
Yes.
do remember you got hit on by a client.
Yes.
What do you do in that scenario? I mean, you're a single divorce lawyer. You're tough.
Yeah. I've just kind of said,
We can't date
you're
our
so
clients.
funny. We can't date. Yeah, I can't date, won't date. And when I first started, our clients were not in my pool because I was just so young, and it's rare to find a 25 to 27-year-old getting divorced.
Yes.
But now, I think I've only seen one client, and I was like, oh, he's cute. But sometimes I'll ask David Default, any of your estate planning clients available? And he's like, no, they're planning for their
Demise.
yes. I'm like, okay, too old.
That is not just all the things that estate planning attorneys do, though.
Yeah.
Estate planning attorneys, they just don't plan for death. They're planning for all the things.
Yes.
Life events.
Yes.
Life events. Obviously, you have experienced breakups.
Yes.
And to me, whether your marriage is breaking up, it's a relationship breaking up. It's obviously a lot less complex if you're in a dating relationship most of the time. But as you get older and people choose to live together and not get married, breakups are still breakups. Because of what we do in our careers, how do you handle breakups?
Just like everybody else. They're hard. It's grieving a loss. It's, grieving that future with that person. But again, I'm going to say Mel Robbins. She says it best. I think it's in her last 3 paragraphs.
Yeah.
They weren't for you. Let them go. Somebody else is coming.
What's been your best words of advice that you give your clients who are going through separation and divorce on starting over?
There is a bright future ahead. This is just the dark time, but you're going to get through it, and they always do.
And what are the best words of advice that you tell yourself in your own dating life as a divorce attorney?
My person's on their way. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on and sharing your insight with us today.
Thanks for having me.